So, a couple days ago, and I somehow missed this, but a couple days ago, there was a hearing or a confirmation session for the what will be, I believe, the highest ranking transgender official in the U.S. government for like the deputy health secretary or something like that. And Rand Paul, whom is garbage, and if you like Rand Paul, I'm sorry, you're probably garbage. But Rand Paul had some really bizarre questions, and I just really wanted to highlight how bad this shit is, and I wanted to clear up any misconceptions. And I haven't seen this clip yet. I saw like a snippet, and then someone, was telling me it's like, this is really bad. So I'm like, all right, let's watch.
Genital mutilation has been nearly universally condemned. Genital mutilation has been condemned by the WHO.
So I want to keep in mind, this guy is conflating genital mutilation with being trans. So in order to be trans, you need to mutilate your genitals in this guy's dumb fuck brain. Also, I wonder, does Rand Paul support circumcision? Because I've got news for you. Circumcision is genital mutilation. So I just wanted to point that out. Unless, can someone, in the chat look up what Rand Paul has to say on genital mutilation in the terms of circumcision? Because I'm curious if his opinions are consistent. I'm curious, does Rand Paul have kids? Has he had his kids circumcised? I wonder. Anyway, let's go on.
The United Nations Children's Fund, the United Nations Population Fund. According to the WHO, genital mutilation is recognized internationally as a violation of human rights. Genital mutilation is considered...
Yet, it is still common practice in the United States to circumcise children.
...particularly egregious because, as the WHO notes, it is nearly always carried out on minors and is a violation of the rights of children. Most genital mutilation is not typically performed by force, but as WHO notes that by social convention, social norm, the social pressure to conform, to do what others do and have been doing, as well as the need to be accepted socially and the fear of being rejected by the community. American culture is now normalizing the idea that minors can be given hormones to prevent their biological development of their secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Levine, you have supported both allowing minors to be given hormone blockers to...
Now again, Rand Paul is conflating genital mutilation, which is often done on newborns and those under the age of 13, with minors, which is anyone under the age of 18. So in his brain, right, he is conflating and purposefully obfuscating the differences between being 1 month old and being, 17 years old. The idea that there's no difference in development in your ability to think critically and self-identify between the age of 1 month and 17 years, I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. But let's go on.
Prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia.
What?
Like surgical mutilation,
Again, he's surgical destruction. What does that mean? What does that mean? And again, does Rand Paul support or is he opposed to circumcision? I'm curious.
Hormonal interruption of puberty can permanently alter and prevent secondary sexual characteristics. The American College of Pediatricians reports that 80 to 95% of prepubertal children with gender dysphoria will experience resolution by late adolescence if not exposed to medical intervention and social affirmation. Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office.
I'm sorry, the idea that she has to, sit here and say, I respect you, good sir. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. You see those little water bottles? If I were in her position, I would take those water bottles and chuck it at that guy's goofball fuckface head.
Discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia?
Now, again, what the procedure or whatever he's trying to describe is a lot more complex than what he's making it out to be. He's trying to act like 8-year-olds are walking into the dentist's office and secretly getting their fucking genitals mutilated or desecrated or destroyed. What really happens, right, the actual process of what we're discussing here is that, let's say you're 14 years old, right, and for the last 3 years you've questioned your gender identity and you want to identify as a gender you were not assigned at birth. Well, there's an option for you in order to grow and develop, in order to give yourself time and your body time and to understand and process these issues. You can be on puberty blockers, right? This is not a permanent, undevelopment, right? No one's going to be on puberty blockers for the rest of their lives. And also, these children, right, as he's trying to say, these teenagers, 14, 13, 15, 16-year-olds, right, are often only given puberty blockers, not cross-sex hormones. The idea that you would give someone cross-sex hormones before you finally discovered whether or not they truly identify as trans is ridiculous, right? But he's conflating all of these things, he's muddying the waters, and it's just disgusting. Again, the idea of puberty blockers is to, again, buy you time so that, let's say you're 14, you can become 15 and 16, your body will not develop in a certain way that might make you dysphoric, and then you can kind of have that time to be in, say, therapy or to process yourself and identify with what you choose at the age of, say, 16 or 17. And if you choose to get off of puberty blockers, that's great. That's a choice. And that choice should be allowed to be given to people. And if you choose to say, yes, I identify as trans and I want to go about the process, you should be allowed to do that. Again, we are feeding, I just want to remind everyone, we feed children sugar every single day that permanently stunts the development of their brains, right? The pharmaceutical industry gives children a lot of different kind of medication like antidepressants and all this other stuff. So unless you're unequivocally opposed to giving child medicine or drugs in any capacity, which I don't see Rand Paul going out there trying to ban sugary cereals or trying to ban pharmaceuticals on kids in general. He's only targeting trans kids because it's all about the culture war. Ugh, trans people are icky. I need to get votes, so I'm going to attack people that are minorities. That's what he's doing. It's not consistent. Has he ever said, oh, I'm opposed to circumcision? And again, the United States is one of the largest countries in the world that still circumcises baby children, okay? This is ridiculous. I'm circumcised against my will. I didn't consent, and now I have to live the rest of my life with that decision that my parents made without any information, okay? Was Rand Paul leading the charge, trying to fight against circumcision? No, he wasn't, because he's a one-trick pony. He doesn't care about the facts. He doesn't care about being consistent. But let's watch him try to bully a trans person.
To give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia. You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor.
Again, the idea that, oh, you're just going to go through it. You're going to have someone off the street, they're going to walk into a back alley somewhere, and then they're going to come out like, as if it's like a 6-hour procedure. It's a multiple year long process. It's not like you just pick a 6-year-old off the street and then put him into like a secret chamber in the alleyway somewhere, do a bunch of operations and then shove them back onto the street. It's not like this guy is trying to concoct some bizarre narrative that's just disgusting. It's wrong and it makes no goddamn sense. This is a multiple year long process. If it happens, it takes multiple fucking years. Holy shit!
I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said.
So again, you can find examples to the contrary for everything. Like, there are people out there, when you go into surgery and get anesthesia, that die because of an allergic reaction or not being able to handle it properly. Does that mean we should no longer provide anesthesia to surgical patients? Oh, you gotta go into the surgery completely lucid and wide awake while people rip your guts out and operate on you? Why? Because some people might be negatively affected. Yes! Some people might be negatively affected. The idea to prevent that from happening is not to cut funding. The idea to prevent that from happening is to expand funding, to expand research, to expand the therapeutic kind of requirements going forward, to expand people's access to healthcare, not retract that, not to reduce it. If you want people to be in a more comfortable spot in their lives, you need to give them more options to be comfortable. You don't just say, well, one person had a negative reaction, therefore let's ban the whole thing. Should we allow to, I walk into a grocery store and I'm allergic to peanuts. Should I be allowed to like look at the peanuts? What if someone like opened the peanuts or whatever in the back room and then there's like peanut dust lingering in the air? Oh no, right? Like, should grocery stores ban peanuts? I'm not actually allergic to peanuts, but my point here is, should you ban things just because a couple people might be negatively affected by their own personal interactions with that stuff? No. What you should do is you should make the whole thing as safe as possible. You should expand funding and expand access. And another thing, again, these kids off the street. Why do you think a 13, 14, 15-year-old trans or queer kid would be kicked out of their parents' home? Maybe because their parents are ultra-religious fundamentalist quacks like Rand Paul is, and they just disowned their child because their child didn't conform to their disgusting religious Puritan worldview?
Adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history,
the idea that this guy is going to use the word amputate with all of the baggage that term comes on. When you think of amputate, you think of like removing your arm or something, right? You don't amputate your genitals. That's not what happens. No one just like cuts their dick off and then just sews it up and that's it. Well, I just cut my dick off and then, that's not, like, that doesn't fucking exist, dude. How dumb are you? Well, actually, he's not that dumb. He knows he is saying the exact things he needs to say in order to rile up his dumb fuck bigoted base in Kentucky. That's not to say all people in Kentucky are garbage. That's to say the people that vote for Rand Paul are garbage. And they are going to be the ones that hear the word amputate and they're going to go like, oh no! And then they're going to vote for Rand Paul because they're pieces of shit.
Believe that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones.
And again, conflating minors. 1 month old, 17 and a half years old. What's the difference in Rand Paul's mind, right? Like, again, you can drive a car in some states at 15 years old, right? You're allowed to operate a several thousand-pound metal death trap, or plastic, or whatever the fuck they're made out of nowadays, right? You're allowed to operate a several thousand-pound death trap that could involve and kill hundreds of people if operated wrongly, but you can't go into a doctor's office and get therapy for a medical condition? What? That's Rand Paul's world.
It will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one.
I just want to say shout outs to her for putting up with that and maintaining her, just demeanor. Again, I would have chucked those water bottles at that guy's goofy clown shoes fucking face. Like, look at his nose, look at his eyes, like, look at his mouth. He's like, right? Like, look at his hair. Like, dude, fucking, have you ever heard of shampoo? Like, my God.
Minors be making these momentous decisions. For most of the history of medicine, we wouldn't let you have a cut sewn up in the ER. But you're willing to let a minor take things that prevent their puberty.
Also, what? If a child, like, let's say is, riding a bike and falls over and gets, like, cut and scraped with a rock, you're not supposed to have stitches? What? Like, is that what this guy is saying? For most of medical history, we would just let the kid bleed out on the sidewalk? What the fuck kind of argument is that?
And you think they get that back? You give a woman testosterone enough that she grows a beard, you think she's going to go back looking like a woman when you stop the testosterone? You have permanently changed them. Infertility is another problem. None of these drugs have been approved for this.
Again, the idea that you're conflating all of these things. Puberty blockers are the same thing as giving someone testosterone for 4 years, right? In this world that they live in, all of these things are the exact same. There's no nuance. There's no complexity. If you're under the age of 18, you shouldn't be allowed to do anything, except we're still allowing circumcisions. Like, where's Rand Paul doing hearings on circumcising babies? What? Where is that? Where's the hearings, Rand Paul? On mass circumcision in America? They're nowhere to be found.
They're all being used off-label. I find it ironic that the left that went nuts over hydroxychloroquine being used possibly for COVID are not alarmed that these hormones are being used off-label. There's no long-term studies. We don't know what happens to them. We do know that there are dozens and dozens of people who've been through this
dozens and dozens as opposed to fucking millions. Yep. Like, again, some people die of anesthesia when going into surgery. Does that mean we shouldn't ever give that to anybody? Everyone has to be awake and fully lucid and aware during surgery because some people might have a negative reaction? Come on, man. Come on.
Regret that this happened and a permanent change happened to them. And, you know, if you've ever been around children, 14-year-olds can't make this decision. In the gender dysphoria clinic in England, 10% of the kids are between the ages of 3 and 10. We should be outraged that someone's talking to a 3-year-old about changing their sex.
So look at the statistic. 10%, which is already extremely fucking low, are between 3 and 10. An extremely fucking large gap of age. So what that really boils down to is maybe 1 or 2 3-year-olds walk in for a seminar. Oh my god! Woo! Like I was just like, what?
I can't vote for you if you can't.
Thank you so much, Senator Paul. Senator Levine, thank you for answering the question. I will turn to Senator Baldwin.
I like how she said Senator Levine. God bless. Anyway, Rand Paul's a piece of shit. All my homies hate Rand Paul. Fuck that guy. The idea, right? Again, the idea that, like, again, where do you think hormones came from? Like, mostly from cis women going through menopause, right? So it's like the idea that, like, these are just new. Like, we've never given hormones to people in the history of the world. Like, dude, like, you see men eating red meat because it has testosterone in it. Like, men, I'm gonna eat a steak every night because it makes my blood have testosterone. Right? But, like, all of a sudden, right? Oh, can't give testosterone to anyone who actually might need it for a medical condition. Right? I'm going to get some bacon and steak so I can boost my testosterone. Right? Like, but, all of a sudden, someone might actually need that, and it's way off limits. Fucking freak show, fucking noodle head bitch. Go fuck himself. And, again, I'd chuck those little water bottles at his head. And I hope that the hard plastic part of the cap, I hope that that's the one that makes contact with his dumb fuck forehead.